Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Liam slaps Hope after finding out Beth isn't his daughter. Liam and Beth ambush Hope while pushing Carter aside. Carter Walton felt marginalized after Hope Logan was ambushed at work by Liam Spencer and Beth Spencer. Sheila Sharp acted as though she knew nothing about the woman who entered Will Spencer's room at Il Giardino during Friday's B&B episode. Sheila realized they were going to go forward when Will finally announced his approaching special night with Electra Forrester. She saw Luna Nozawa at Lee Finnegan's house giving Will's picture on her phone hard eyes. Since there was no possibility of them being together, Lee believed it was absurd that Luna would dream of Will. Sheila talked to Luna alone later and gave her an update on her earlier chat with Will, who had questions because the entire night was hazy. Luna pretended that the evening was still significant and memorable for her. Sheila gave Luna some unsettling news, even if Luna didn't imagine Electra would please Will the way she had. Luna wasn't pleased with Sheila's suggestion that Will and Electra would advance in their romance tonight. He returned with Will and gave Electra flowers at the Forrester guest home, which was romantically decorated with dinner and candles. Now that she was at last ready, Electra thanked Will for his patience. Will gave Electra a passionate kiss and reassured her that she was the one woman he desired. Since Ivy Forrester's heart belonged to Hope, Liam told Bill Spencer at the Spencer mansion about gently disappointing him. Liam wasn't giving up and had plans to take Beth to see Hope at Forrester Creations, despite the fact that Hope was engaged to Carter. Carter pressed Hope to marry him immediately and wanted to schedule a date in the CEO's office at Forrester. Hope talked on all the labor that went into organizing a wedding, even though Carter tried to hurry her to the altar. Hope also mentioned that Carter was much more interested in becoming her husband, even though they hadn't had much time to enjoy their engagement. Hope and Carter were leaning in to lock lips when Beth burst in, followed closely by Liam. Because she missed spending time with Liam and Hope as a family, Beth pushed for a joyful outing. Liam made it a collective hug as Hope gathered Beth up for a tender embrace. Looking envious and excluded from the family moment, Carter stood close by. Hope stalls, Luna's timing, and Beth's ambush. Hope Logan is ambushed by Beth Spencer and Liam Spencer. The stalling of his fiancée worries Carter Walton. Additionally, Luna Nozawa timing Sheila Carter Sharp's check-ins, indicating that there would likely be another escape. Will the interrogation of Spencer? Will Spencer keeps asking Sheila for information. The young man responds that he can't let anything spoil his special evening with Electra Forrester when Sheila questions why he's searching for this mystery girl. Distractions are not necessary for him. Will leaves, frustrated. When did Luna Nozawa arrive? Luna looks at a photo on her phone of Will. Lee Finnegan warns her that her obsession with that young man is absurd. Luna asserts that Will deserves a real woman, not a prude, when the doctor makes her think of Electra. The young woman is insane, according to Lee. Luna looks at a calendar as Lee leaves, anxiously down the seconds till Sheila enters. This girl is quite skilled at being awful. Sheila informs her about Will's questioning. Sheila then tells Luna that tonight is Will and Electra's special time together. Electra Forrester's unique evening. Electra informs Ivy Forrester at work that she is prepared to be with Will. Well, do you require a billboard, girl? You don't have to tell everyone you see about it. Ivy is confident that the couple can overcome any obstacle. They are going to do it at the guest home, which Will gets to later. She has a fire going, and he has flowers. They share a passionate kiss because Will doesn't want to discuss the warning of Bill Spencer. Liam is questioned by Bill Spencer regarding Ivy's visit. Although he rejected her, Liam acknowledges that she wants to be back together. Liam desires the return of his family. Bill advises Liam to take care of that before Hope marries Carter. They talk about Liam pressuring Hope to pardon Carter. After grabbing Beth Spencer, Liam visits Hope. Beth Spencer's surprise attack. Carter wants to be married at work as soon as possible. Consider scheduling a date for after work. They can be as basic or complex as she desires. They must make some preparations. Hope argues that she wants to enjoy being engaged and that wedding planning is a significant undertaking. Liam and Beth burst through the door before they can share a kiss. Hope is pressured by Liam and Beth to do something as a family. Carter observes them together while standing in the background. Liam's soul that the force had to escape, to manifest physically, to translate the cataclysm in his mind into something the visible world could witness. It was not the calculated strike of a villain but the involuntary convulsion of a man whose entire reality had just been atomized. One moment, he was Liam, a father, a husband cradling the fragile, hard-won happiness of a family finally whole, the ghost of Beth's absence finally banished by her miraculous return. The next, he was a stranger to himself, standing in the ruins of a life he now understood to be a meticulously curated museum of lies, and the curator, the architect of this exquisite torture, was Hope, the woman whose very name had been his mantra, his anchor, his definition of love. The sound was obscene, a sharp, wet crack that seemed to suck all other sound from the room, leaving in its wake a vacuum of pure, stunned horror. Hope's head snapped to the side, a sharp, mechanical motion, her hand flying to her cheek not to suit the burning imprint of his palm, but as if to physically hold her face together, to confirm that the world could still produce a sensation so mundane as pain when everything else had just become abstract and monstrous. Her eyes, wide and swimming with instant tears, reflected not just the shock of the blow, but the dawning, apocalyptic understanding of its cause. He knew. The words had been said, the truth, that vile, hidden seed she had nurtured in the dark, had finally erupted into a poisonous bloom between them, and its scent was the acrid smell of their marriage's sudden death. For Liam, the act of slapping her was happening in a distant dimension, observed by a version of himself he no longer recognized. His hand stung, a distant, trivial throb compared to the raw, grinding agony in his chest. He looked at his own palm as if it belonged to a murderer, the instrument of a violence he had always believed himself incapable of. But that was the core of the revelation, wasn't it? He was capable of things he never knew. He was capable of being a fool. He was capable of loving a lie so completely that its undoing unmade him. The sight of her, her fragility, her shock, the perfect picture of wounded innocence, now struck him as the most masterful performance of her life. Every tender glance, every shared joy over their daughter's first steps, her first words, every late-night conversation marveling at the miracle of Beth's existence, it had all been conducted over a bottomless pit, and Hope had known it. She had let him build his life on that fault line, smiling all the while. The love he had felt, so profound and all-consuming, now felt like a sickness, a parasite she had implanted in him. "She's not yours." Those 3 words, delivered not in a scream but in the flat, cold tone of a judge reading a sentence, had not just ended a conversation, they had ended a universe. They were the key that turned in the lock of every doubt he'd ever suppressed, every sideways glance from Thomas he'd dismissed as jealousy, every nanosecond of hesitation in Hope's eyes he'd explained away as post-traumatic stress from their years of turmoil. The memory of Beth's conception, a desperate, passionate collision in the wake of believing they had lost their daughter forever, now seemed tawdry and sinister, not a rekindling of love but the site of the original sin. He had been a placeholder, a warm body in a moment of despair, his DNA a convenient scaffold upon which to hang a paternity she and Thomas would know was a fiction. The little girl sleeping peacefully upstairs, the child whose laughter was the purest sound he knew, whose tiny hand in his felt like the answer to every prayer he'd ever uttered, was not his daughter. She was Thomas's. The man he despised, his perpetual rival, his dark shadow, had won in the most fundamental, biological way possible. Thomas's blood ran in Beth's veins, his own was just a legal technicality on a birth certificate. The slap was the punctuation mark on that sentence. It was the period, the exclamation point, the final, brutal full stop. It said everything his reeling mind could not yet form into words. "You stole my fatherhood. You made me a cuckold in the most profound sense. You gave me a treasure and then revealed it was fool's gold, and you let me love it, love her, with every fiber of my being." The physical pain he had inflicted was a fleeting whisper compared to the psychological vivisection she had performed on him. He wasn't just a betrayed husband, he was a ghost in his own home, a man who had passionately loved a child who shared no part of him. The memories he cherished were now tainted, their beauty replaced by a haunting question: had he been bonding with a child, or with an idea? Had he seen himself in Beth's eyes, or had he merely seen the reflection of his own desperate need to believe? Hope's tears began to fall in earnest, tracking through the blush of his handprint on her pale skin. She tried to form his name, Liam, but it came out a broken sob, a plea that died in the charged air between them. That sound, which once would have shattered him with empathy, now felt like another manipulation. He saw not her pain, but the performance of it. He saw the calculation he now believed had always been there, the endless weighing of him against Thomas, her perfect, noble hope against the messy, complicated reality of desire. The room, once their sanctuary, felt like a crime scene. Every photo on the mantelpiece of the three of them was now a piece of evidence, a snapshot of the delusion she had constructed and he had so willingly inhabited. The air was thick with the unsaid, with the ghosts of a million kisses and whispered promises that now rang as hollow as a script. He had slapped Hope, yes, but in that action, he felt he had finally slapped himself awake from a beautiful, devastating dream, only to find the waking world was a desolate and lonely place. The man who walked away from her in that moment, his hands still tingling with the awful truth of its impact, was not the same man who had entered the room. That man was gone, obliterated. All that remained was the echo of the slap, and the vast, silent emptiness where a father's love used to be. Carter Walton, a monument of patience and sculpted integrity, felt the weight of a promise perpetually suspended in the air between him and Hope Logan. The elegant platinum band on her finger was less a symbol of their union and more a placeholder, a beautiful, cold piece of metal that failed to bridge the chasm of her hesitation. On this day, his resolve, worn thin by weeks of vague answers and romantic postponements, finally solidified into a gentle but firm ultimatum. With the soft afternoon light casting long shadows across her desk, he leaned in, his voice a low, earnest plea meant for her ears only, pushing her to finally set a date, to marry him right away, to transform his title from fiancé to husband. Hope, her face a masterpiece of conflicted emotion, parried his urgency with the practicalities of wedding planning and a desire to simply enjoy their engagement, a flimsy defense that Carter saw right through. He wasn't interested in the pageantry of an engagement, he was starving for the substance of a marriage. As he leaned in, hoping to seal his plea with a kiss that might melt her reservations, the moment was shattered not by her rejection, but by a force of nature named Beth Spencer. The door burst open with the unbridled energy of a 5-year-old on a mission, and suddenly the intimate, tense atmosphere was eviscerated. Beth, a whirlwind of pink dresses and boundless excitement, charged into the room with a single-minded purpose that bypassed all adult nuance. Trailing in her wake, a step behind but with a gaze burning with calculated intention, was Liam Spencer, the specter at the feast of Hope's new relationship. Carter recoiled as if struck, the intimate bubble he had so carefully constructed popping with the violent suddenness of a needle. His kiss, meant to be a promise, died before it reached its target. Hope's attention instantly dissolved from the man who wanted to be her future to the child who was her past and present, her face instantly softening into a beatific smile as she scooped her daughter into a warm, encompassing embrace. "Mommy. Daddy said we could all go do something fun." Beth's declaration, innocent and joyous, was a weapon of mass destruction aimed directly at Carter's heart. It was a statement of unity, of a we that inherently excluded him. Liam didn't miss a beat. He stood there, the picture of paternal devotion, his eyes not on his daughter but fixed on Hope, drinking in the family tableau he was orchestrating. As Hope held Beth, Liam moved in, his arms encircling them both, turning a mother-daughter moment into a deliberate group hug, a living portrait of the Spencer family. It was an ambush, masterfully executed under the impeccable cover of a child's desire for ice cream and playgrounds. Liam and Beth, a perfect, irresistible tag team, had pushed Carter aside not with physical force, but with the far more powerful currency of shared history and biological bonds. Carter stood frozen a few feet away, a statue of irrelevance in his own proposed future. He was a spectator to his own unraveling, an outsider looking in on a perfect, complete picture to which there was no door, no invitation, and no need for a fourth member. The jealousy was a cold, sharp knot in his stomach, but it was dwarfed by a profound sense of alienation. This was not a simple interruption, it was a reassertion of a primal claim. Hope, lost in the scent of her daughter's hair and the familiar, comforting presence of Liam's arms, seemed to momentarily forget Carter existed. She was home, in the way she had been home for years, and the complicated, uncertain future with Carter paled in comparison to the easy, nostalgic warmth of this manufactured moment. By the time she glanced over Beth's shoulder, her eyes meeting Carter's, the damage was irrevocably done. Her look was one of faint apology, but it was distant, as if she were already mentally halfway to the zoo or the carousel, her priorities visually recalibrated. The message was clearer than any wedding vow could ever be: her first family, the one built with Liam, would always come first. It was a hierarchy of the heart, and Carter, for all his perfection, resided firmly at the bottom. Liam had not needed to argue, to plead, or to reason. He had simply deployed their ultimate weapon, their daughter, and let the overwhelming power of that bond do the work for him, effectively ambushing Hope's tentative steps toward a new life and pushing the man who loved her completely and patiently into the shadows, a mere footnote in the ongoing saga of the Spencer-Logan family drama. Hope Logan, Carter Walton, and Will Spencer were intersecting on a collision course engineered by the Spencer family's relentless pursuit of reunion and a young woman's dangerous obsession, proving that in the game of hearts, the most damaging attacks are often launched under the banner of love. The genesis of this turmoil lay not in a boardroom or a lavish estate, but in the calculated mind of Luna Nozawa, a young woman whose quiet exterior belied a tempest of delusion and cunning. Staring at the image of Will Spencer on her phone, her fixation had curdled into a possessive conviction. When Lee Finnegan dismissed her obsession as ridiculous and pointed out the reality of Electra Forrester, Luna's retort was laced with a venomous superiority. "Will needs a real woman," she insisted, labeling Electra a prude, a claim so wildly out of touch with reality it confirmed Lee's diagnosis of delusion. But Luna's instability was paired with a terrifying competence. Alone, her gaze fell upon a calendar, her fingers tracing dates not for social events, but for the meticulously tracked check-ins of Sheila Carter Sharp. This was no casual interest, it was the study of a master manipulator by her most promising apprentice. Luna wasn't just counting days, she was counting down to an opportunity, her timing so exact that Sheila's entrance felt less like a coincidence and more like a summoned apparition. Their exchange was a chilling meeting of twisted minds. Sheila, the seasoned predator, relayed the news of Will's frustrated interrogation, and Luna, the nascent viper, absorbed it, already weaving it into her own narrative. When Sheila delivered the crucial intelligence, that Will and Electra's long-anticipated special night was finally happening, Luna's resolve solidified. She was good at being bad, and she was preparing to prove it on a grand scale. This special night was, for Electra Forrester, a moment of joyous and confident transition. Announcing her readiness to her cousin Ivy was not mere gossip but a declaration of self-assured love, an excitement so pure it needed to be shared. Ivy's supportive words, that the couple could get through anything, echoed with a tragic irony she could not yet perceive. Meanwhile, Will, fresh from his fruitless and aggravating encounter with Sheila, arrived at the guest house, a sanctuary he believed was insulated from the world's chaos. He carried flowers, a token of romantic intent, and found Electra had set a scene of intimate warmth with a crackling fire. His desire to silence talk was a testament to his yearning for a perfect, distraction-free moment, a wish so fervent it seemed to will itself into being as they fell into a deep, romantic kiss. This was to be their haven, the culmination of their patient love story, blissfully unaware that its every detail was being reported back to a rival who viewed their intimacy not as a private celebration, but as a personal affront and a catalyst for action. Simultaneously, another Spencer patriarch was engineering a different kind of romantic intervention, one based on a desperate longing for a fractured family to be whole. Bill Spencer, ever the puppet master, cornered his son Liam, probing about Ivy Forrester's recent visit. Liam's admission that he had turned down Ivy's offer of reunion was met not with paternal comfort, but with a strategic warning. Bill's focus was razor-sharp. Liam needed to reclaim his family before Hope Logan made her union with Carter Walton permanent. This conversation, a masterclass in Spencer manipulation, reframed Liam's noble intention of supporting Hope's happiness into a desperate race against the clock. Bill's words ignited a panic in Liam, transforming his passive hope into an active campaign. His weapon of choice was not logic or adult conversation, but the one person Hope could never refuse, their daughter, Beth. Grabbing the little girl, he embarked on a mission not of reconciliation, but of ambush, weaponizing their shared child as the ultimate emotional leverage. The stage was thus set for the collision at the Forrester Creations office. There, Hope and Carter were attempting to navigate the normal, happy turmoil of engagement. Carter, his heart full and his past disappointments making him eager to secure his future, pushed to set a date immediately, his love offering simplicity or grandeur, whatever she desired. But Hope, perhaps sensing a subconscious hesitation she couldn't yet articulate, stalled. She spoke of the enormity of wedding planning and the desire to simply enjoy the engagement, reasons that felt valid yet hinted at a deeper uncertainty she wasn't ready to voice. Just as they leaned in for a kiss, a moment to quiet the doubts and affirm their choice, the door burst open. The idyllic future Carter was trying to build was shattered by the living, breathing embodiment of Hope's past. Liam, with Beth in his arms, presented a potent tableau of the family Hope had lost. Their coordinated push for a family day was a brilliantly executed emotional assault, designed to overwhelm Hope's logical mind and speak directly to her heart's deepest yearning. As Liam and Beth enveloped her, their pleas creating a closed circle of shared history and biology, Carter was effectively erased from the picture. He could only stand in the background, a silent, stunned spectator to the power of a bond he could never break, watching his future wife and his dream of a family being pulled back into the gravitational field of the Spencer name. His concern was no longer abstract, it was a cold, hard reality unfolding before his eyes. Hope's stall was no longer just a delay in planning, it was a chink in her resolve, expertly exploited by the one force she was most vulnerable to, leaving her fiancé to wonder if he was standing at the altar of a love that was already being ambushed and dismantled before it could even truly begin.